Hi, this is Scott, and this is a travel guide to the roads in the larger towns of northern British Columbia, which I'm defining as roughly north of Prince George or 54 degrees of latitude. The northern third of BC, more than 300,000 square miles of land and waterways, is home to just 10,000 residents. For many travelers, this region serves as a passageway to the Yukon and Alaska. Even if your destination lies beyond the region, it's a place worth savoring. 4 primary roads form a loop through northern British Columbia: the Alaska Highway, the Cassiar Highway, the Yellowhead Highway, and the John Hart Highway. These routes form the backbone of this video. Along the way, we'll explore the major towns and sites, take a few detours and spur routes, and get a sense of the culture, landscape, and wildlife throughout northern BC. Let's start with an overview, and then we'll dive into specifics of each route. All 4 highways are paved, 2-lane, undivided roadways, suitable for any roadworthy vehicle. It's common to go 100 to 150 miles between services like fuel and food on each route. Longer distances will often, but not always, be indicated by signs. You'll see other vehicles frequently along the Alaska Highway, a bit less so on the Yellowhead Highway west of Prince George, and less so again on the Cassiar Highway. The regional electric utility, BC Hydro, is doing a great job of building out its EV charging system. In 2024, I frequently encountered robust, fast charging systems along all the 4 major roads. I feel confident saying that an EV with a 300-plus mile range could easily complete this loop. Like many sparsely populated regions, the economy is built on natural resources, primarily on extraction and secondarily on recreation. On several trips over 15 years, I've seen mining and drilling activity expand and contract throughout the region. Most of the actual operations are set back from the major roads, and you're unlikely to see direct evidence unless you hunt for them. You'll also note the strong presence of First Nations communities throughout northern British Columbia. With a bit of research and curiosity, you'll find many opportunities to learn more about the rich history and cultural ties between these communities and the surrounding landscape. While we'll be sticking near the roads, the roadless areas of northern BC are vast. The interior is a mosaic of wilderness parks, reserves, and protected areas that are infrequently accessed by humans. As we'll see, the topography is varied. The southern and eastern extremes are generally a flat to rolling mosaic of pasture and forest land, interspersed with lakes and waterways. The mountainous areas in the north and west cover about 2/3 of the total area in northern BC. On and near the roadways, the elevations in northern BC aren't extreme and rarely exceed 4,000 feet on our loop. Keep in mind that extreme winter conditions in these far north latitudes will make even modest mountain passes sketchy for driving at points during the colder months. Okay, now we'll explore this region in more detail, starting where many visitors begin at mile 0 of the Alaska Highway in Dawson Creek. Your enthusiasm is likely to be high, envisioning the adventures ahead, and that's a good thing, in part because your first few hours on the road are unlikely to form your best memories. The first 150 miles are the heart of oil and gas production in the region. Once past Meek Mountain, the drilling traffic diminishes, and you'll find yourself among forested hillsides with glimpses of the Prophet River and views of the northern Rockies off to the west. About another 150 miles of this will bring you to Fort Nelson. If you're aiming for a hotel stay, this is a good place to spend your first night before we climb up into the mountains. I highly recommend the Woodlands Inn and Suites, a good-sized modern hotel that's locally owned with exceptionally friendly staff. And if you're a Tim Hortons fan, be sure to get your fix just about a quarter mile down the road. On our route, it'll be at least another 850 miles before your next chance. Leaving Fort Nelson, the road veers west and begins to climb into a scenic stretch of the northern Rockies. About an hour in, you'll cross into Stone Mountain Provincial Park, and a bit further, you'll spy Summit Lake on your left, a fantastic campground and easily the best place to stop your first night if you prefer to sleep under the stars. All sites are first come, first served, and the campground is open mid-May to mid-September. Summit Lake also marks the high elevation point of the entire Alaska Highway at 4,250 feet. Moving past Summit Lake, the next couple of hours wind us through mountains and alongside lakes and rushing rivers. This stretch, including the twisting road along Muncho Lake, has been, for me, the most reliable wildlife viewing corridor along our entire route. You're likely to see caribou, stone and bighorn sheep, and bear along this stretch. There are scattered rustic resorts and additional camping options along the roughly 200 miles between Fort Nelson and the Laird River, which crosses the highway a bit before Muncho Lake Provincial Park northern boundary. Relatively upscale lodging and fuel are available at Northern Rockies Lodge on the shore of Muncho Lake. If you're feeling really adventurous, the lodge has float planes that can provide access to backcountry cabins, remote fishing sites, and much more. Their restaurant tends to focus its service to lodgers, but I found them to be friendly folks and they've whipped up a sandwich and soup for me on the fly. They're open year-round. As you leave Muncho Lake behind, you only have about 30 miles of road to Laird Hot Springs. This is another provincial park, billed as the second largest natural hot springs pool in British Columbia. It's an idyllic setting, rich with wildlife and unique plants, supported by the warm water and minerals. The campsites of the park are surrounded by strong, electrified fencing, but you'll pass through that to follow the boardwalk to the pools themselves. Keep an eye out on the path. The wildlife are fascinating and can appear easygoing, but they're also unpredictable. Keep a safe distance. The pools are set in an attractive wooded setting, and they're a relaxing way to wrap up a day of sightseeing. Be sure to bring along your swimming suit and towel. There are no rentals available. The water temperatures vary within the pools, and you'll be able to find your comfortable spot, from scalding to cool. The hot springs and camping sites are open year-round, with reduced services from October 1st through the end of April. They fill up during the warm months, so reserve ahead or arrive early for limited first-come, first-served sites. There's also a privately run lodge on the opposite side of the Alaska Highway, open year-round with rooms, RV sites, a restaurant, and fuel. About 15 miles past Laird Hot Springs, keep an eye out for a small sign and a turnoff to your right. A couple of miles up that dirt road and a short hike further will bring you to Smith Falls, a wonderful gem off the Alaska Highway and easily worth the detour. Heading north from the hot springs, we've got about 130 miles of road through rolling mountain scenery, following the Laird River upstream to Watson Lake. North of the hot springs is where I've most often spotted the woodland bison that routinely wander and graze along the roadside, though they will make an appearance as far south as Fort Nelson. The road then rolls back and forth along the provincial border before heading firmly into the Yukon in the entry town of Watson Lake, with its population of roughly 1,100 folks. Situated about halfway between Fort Nelson and Whitehorse, Watson Lake is a popular overnight. You'll find a range of lodging options, including the Air Force Lodge, located a couple of miles east of the center of town. The lodge is comprised of historic log buildings that have been lovingly restored. Their accommodations are by all accounts the best in town. The lodge and other accommodations in Watson Lake will book up quickly, so consider reserving ahead. The town has a couple of modest restaurants, but breakfast can be hard to find in this and other small northern towns. Here and elsewhere, check the gas station/general store. In many cases, they'll serve a hot breakfast. Watson Lake also has the Signpost Forest, a popular stop that originated as homesick soldiers started putting up hometown signposts as they built the original Alaska Highway as a defensive initiative in the early months of World War II. Others have been adding signs ever since. We're nearing the end of our time on the Alaska Highway, but before wrapping up this leg, we'll take a detour. If you've watched my Traveler's Guide to the Yukon, you may recall that one of two roads I hadn't been on was the Nahanni Range Road, a remote, unpaved road in southeastern Yukon. This most recent trip, I took the opportunity to travel a portion of this road, and we'll take the chance here to give you a taste of the Yukon. To get there, we turn north, away from the Alaska Highway, and onto the Robert Campbell Highway, and travel this paved but lightly trafficked segment for the 65 miles up to the base of the Nahanni Range Road. Turning there, we enter the dirt, which continues for the 150-mile length of the road. There are 0 services from Watson Lake to the end of the Nahanni Range Road, a round trip of close to 450 miles. So be sure to bring adequate fuel, food, and camping gear if you aim for an overnight. And if you do intend to camp, there's one of the fine Yukon territorial campgrounds about halfway up the range road. The range road itself is largely hard-packed gravel with some packed dirt sections that get a little squirrely in wet conditions. For stretches, you'll be hemmed in by those close-growing trees, but the views occasionally open up to the surrounding mountains and vistas. The road travels east from the Robert Campbell for about 30 miles before veering north and following the course of the Highland River for most of the rest of the distance to the Northwest Territories border. Past the border, it swings to the south and terminates several miles on at a mining operation. Once you enter the Highland River Valley, there are more frequent views as the road takes you up between opposing mountain ranges. This is very remote country. You're more than 100 miles out of cell phone range, and the nearest medical facilities, fuel, food, and lodging are hours behind you in Watson Lake. On my track up about 70 miles of the road in early October, I saw 4 or 5 other vehicles, local drivers barreling along fairly fast. Keep an eye out, as the road will be a tight squeeze for 2 vehicles passing in opposing directions. Again, the road quality is pretty good, and most any vehicle other than large RVs will be able to manage it in dry weather. Enjoy the experience of seeing sights that very few other people will ever experience. Heading back down to Watson Lake, we'll travel the Alaska Highway westwards for just another 15 miles before taking a left for our next major leg, the Stewart-Cassiar Highway, or BC Highway 37. Unlike the wide, mowed rights-of-way on the Alaska Highway, for most of this route, the woods will grow close to the road, giving it a more rustic and remote feel. Traffic is light but regular. While oil and gas drilling is prevalent on the southern stretch of the Alaska Highway, here the extractive industry trends more toward mining operations. Still, the pickup trucks and occasional helicopter look much the same, and you'll see actual mining operations only a couple of times along the route. There is effectively 0 cell coverage the entire 450-mile length of the Stewart-Cassiar. Fuel services are limited to 5 or 6 locations spaced fairly evenly along the route. If in doubt, fill up the tank. The north of Canada is characterized by immense swaths of boreal forest and the prolific black spruce. As a matter of both policy and practicality, wildfires, by and large, burn freely in the unpopulated areas. And just a few miles south of the Yukon-BC border, you'll begin a 20-mile stretch passing through the slowly recovering land from a wildfire that burned in 2010 and 2011. Wildfires worldwide are becoming more frequent and intense. We talked to a couple of firefighters, and they said that the big fire up by Telegraph Creek was huge. It's a bunch of little fires that came together. but the rains had come up there just in the last day or so, and it was starting to get under control, and so they were going off duty, but then they thought they'd be reassigned to southern British Columbia. And they said some of the old-timer firefighters are saying that fires these days are behaving like nothing they'd ever seen in their lives. So they said it's getting worse every year. Not long past this old burn, we'll come up on Tachilla Park and Boya Lake. In my opinion, this is a must-stop. An idyllic lake with sandy shores and a surreal bright blue hue. The color comes from crystal clear water, a relatively shallow profile, and a distinctive and highly reflective silt and shell lake bed. In the summer months, the shallow depth allows this lake to warm up for comfortable swimming. The park rents canoes and kayaks, and there's an attractive lakeside campground with more than 40 reservable sites, pit toilets, and a potable water source. Back on our route, we head south into a more mountainous segment, and about 25 miles south of Tachilla, we reach Jade City. Easily worth a quick stop, and a long one if you're a rock hound. This settlement is all about the Cassiar Mountain Jade Store and its huge selection of raw, polished, and sculpted stones. It's a fun lay-by, and the settlement has a roadside campground and a limited number of Airbnb-type lodging options, but no fuel or food. Backtracking a bit, we can take a well-maintained, unpaved spur road that leads 10 miles west to the historic Cassiar asbestos mine and town, whose population peaked at almost 1,500 folks in the mid-70s, with 2 schools, churches, and even a hockey arena. For a long time, this was an abandoned site and a popular side trip from the highway. More recently, gold mining operations have recommenced, and ghost town hunters will find that their access is limited to the entry point. Still, I'd say it's easily worth the detour. Heading south from Jade City, we'll wind through mountains and alongside a scenic lake for about 70 miles to the largest town on the Cassiar Highway, Dease Lake. With its population of roughly 230 folks, the town has a well-maintained hotel, campground, and some smaller but attractive lodging options. Beyond that, services are largely limited to the fuel station and general store, which includes a deli and seating area that's your best option for a hot breakfast in town. Dease Lake is a functional hub, but it's not a tourist site. If you're equipped for it, I recommend camping at the lovely Sawmill Point Recreation Site, about 10 miles north of town. The unpaved path down to the lakeside camping sites is a bit rough, but the tranquil setting is a great way to mark your overnight in this remote corner of the world. From Dease Lake, there's an adventurous side trip option to consider. It's a 70-mile-long unpaved road that runs west out of town to the small First Nations settlement of Telegraph Creek. Heavy rain and wildfire closure have thwarted my 2 attempts to travel to the town, but reports are of a scenic route tracking alongside the Stikine River and a welcoming town with a number of Airbnb-type lodging operations. Heading south from Dease Lake, you'll be winding through fantastic mountain scenery for more than 200 miles as far as Meziadin Junction. Along the way, you'll pass a handful of small First Nation settlements, rivers, lakes, largely undeveloped provincial parks, and other atmospheric sites. There are a couple of modest fuel stops along this stretch, but I suggest fueling up at Dease Lake. The boundary ranges constitute a high series of impassable mountains and glacial fields west of the Stewart-Cassiar, and we'll approach them most closely in the 100-mile stretch north and south of Bell 2, a large lodge and fuel stop positioned about 150 miles south of Dease Lake. While we can only see hints of the boundary range along the Stewart-Cassiar, we can get a much closer experience with our next detour. From Meziadin Junction, we'll take a 40-mile paved spur road down to a highlight of the region, the town of Stewart, British Columbia, and a range of nearby sites. The road to Stewart is breathtaking, with steep mountain sides, cascading high waterfalls, and beautiful river and forest views. You'll also get a real sense of your northern latitude as you round a corner and come up on the Bear Glacier pullout. Stewart is an historic mining town that has shrunk down in recent decades to a population of about 500. What's rescued the town from complete collapse are some continued mining operations and a drop-dead gorgeous location. The town itself has capitalized on its historic main street to create a great home base for nearby adventures. You've got a range of unique lodging options, including an RV-friendly campground on the edge of town, a couple of motels, and the historic rooms at Ripley Creek Inn and Hotel Bayview. Pick up some freshly baked goods and general groceries at Harbor Lights Grocery. You can also fuel up in town if you forgot to back at the junction. Stewart also has the fantastic El Tostador restaurant, formerly known as Toaster Works. The restaurant changed hands in recent years, keeping the unique decor but upgrading to top-notch authentic Mexican food and a full bar with unique cocktails. The real highlight of Stewart is its scenic location. Take a slow walk on the lengthy boardwalk at the edge of town to take in the surrounding mountains as you amble above the marshes here at the very top of a long inlet of the Pacific Ocean. Now we'll venture a couple of miles beyond Stewart to pass over a unique border crossing into the small, iconoclastic town of Hyder, Alaska. Hyder is entirely isolated. The U.S. doesn't even maintain any formal border crossing here. But be aware, Canada does maintain this crossing. So if you cross into Hyder without travel documents, you'll be stranded on the U.S. side of the border with nowhere to go and no easy way to leave. Besides a bar known for its 200 proof alcohol shot, there is little to hold you in this small hamlet. But you can take the one road further out of town. About 3 miles along, you'll come to Fish Creek Wildlife Observation Station. A short, elevated boardwalk will take you along the waterway where, in the summer months, you're very likely to see wandering bears of both the black and grizzly variety, scooping up salmon snacks along the way. Be careful. These bears will often wander up on the road and into the parking area. Obey the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit and the instruction of site wardens, and treat wildlife with the respect and distance they deserve. Once you've had your fill of bear watching, check the condition of your vehicle and continue on the road away from Hyder. Soon, the pavement will end, and you'll find yourself on a well-maintained flat gravel road, following the waterway upstream for about another 5 miles. After this, the road gets more dynamic, and you start climbing. Take this road slowly. Rock slides and debris are very common. You'll continue on up and up, passing back into British Columbia and winding around mountains for about 20 miles. The landscape gradually opens to you as we climb 4,000 feet in elevation. This is your route to a corner of the Boundary Ranges, and your payoff is a panorama of mountain peaks and the stunning Salmon Glacier. This is a place to savor in a truly unique experience. The road itself continues on for about 15 miles beyond the modestly developed scenic viewpoint before terminating at another mine site. The road up to the viewpoint is reasonably maintained, and other than large RVs or trailers, any vehicle in good condition can make it up to the glacier view, but keep a good eye out. There will be false branching roads at the mine sites, though they are generally well marked. Your biggest concern will be road debris and views that will pull your eyes away. Also, keep an eye on the weather. Clouds and rain are common and can put a real damper on the views. We'll do a fast reverse now, down the mountain, past the bears, back over the border, through Stewart, and winding our way back up to Meziadin Junction. From here, we can turn right and continue down the last 100 miles of the Stewart-Cassiar Highway to its terminus at Kitwanga, where we can join the Yellowhead Highway in the next leg of our trip.
There you go, thumbs up.
The Yellowhead Highway marks a significant change in our journey. we'll continue to see long stretches between towns and a wide range of beautiful landscapes. However, unlike our route to this point, the Yellowhead Highway has some pretty serious commerce. A busy train route, a Pacific shipping port, and larger communities means that the number of vehicles and the range of services are more dense. This remains remote country compared to southern Canada and much of the lower 48, and there's still plenty of adventure to be had. First off, we'll take a spur off our main circular route and head south and west from Kitwanga through high mountain scenery for about 60 miles to the hub town of Terrace. At almost 20,000 residents, this is by far the biggest town we've encountered since Fort St. John more than 1,000 miles back. Fast food chains, budget hotels, and full-service grocery stores are available here. From Terrace, we'll detour again and head south on Highway 37 for 40 miles to Kitimat. Kitimat's setting is scenic, with mountains encircling the head of a lengthy inlet from the Pacific Ocean. It's also a bit of a company town, dominated by huge mining and liquefied natural gas, or LNG, terminals. This is a bustling export point for a good chunk of the natural resource extraction that we pass through on our journey. Backtracking to Terrace, keep your eyes peeled. We're traveling through the documented range of the distinctive spirit bear, a unique subspecies of black bear found only in this remote corner of British Columbia. From Terrace, we'll resume our path southwest for another 90 miles to the coastal city of Prince Rupert. Along the way, we'll follow the widening Skeena River Valley with dramatic scenery, a narrow, winding road, and during the late summer, salmon fishing camps. We're now entering temperate rainforest habitat, and the interplay of trees, mountains, clouds, and water is subtle and visually stunning. It feels different than any other place on our route. Plan to pull off the road frequently to soak in the sights, sounds, and smells. Rain and high humidity are a near constant in Prince Rupert, a city of about 12,000 folks. That creates a sense of lushness, but it also wears hard on buildings. It's a subdued town, but head down to the corner known as Cow Bay, a bit north and east of downtown, where you'll find the excellent Cappuccino's Bakery and Coffee Shop, a couple of art galleries, and an attractive small park. Also, keep an eye out for the many murals around town highlighting the coastal wildlife. As for lodging, the larger hotels in town are generally rough around the edges. I'd recommend either the Pioneer Guest House near Cow Bay or Tall Trees Bed and Breakfast in a residential section of town. Prince Rupert is a healthcare hub of northern British Columbia, and most visitors come either for that or for the ferry, which connects this town with points along the Pacific Northwest coast, ranging from northern Vancouver Island to points throughout the Alaska Marine Highway system. It's also the embarkation point to the Haida Gwaii, a 4,000 square mile archipelago that's both a natural wonder and the homeland of the Haida First Nation for more than 13,000 years. Instead of taking the ferry, we'll backtrack up the Yellowhead Highway. At Terrace, we'll take yet another detour northwards along 65 miles of the paved Nisga'a Highway. This route will take us between mountain ranges, through forests, and alongside lakes up to some expansive rock lava beds and the Nisga'a First Nations community of New Ionish. You can head west from here back down to a remote Pacific Coast inlet, but we'll head north and east along the Nass Forest Service Road. Paved for the first few miles, this service road turns to gravel and dirt that winds along another 35 miles, past a couple of small mining sites, an attractive lakeside campground, and some hunting cabins, until we intersect with the southern extreme of the Stewart-Cassiar Highway at Cranberry Junction. It was here I encountered a blockade aimed at halting the construction of a pipeline that would serve the LNG terminal back in Kitimat. As with most of the movements aimed at protecting resources and landscapes in northern Canada, this protest was led and populated by First Nations people. I spoke with folks at the site and was struck by the sincerity and concern they brought to this struggle. First Nations people and communities are not monolithic in their perspectives. But whatever their opinion, it's impossible to deny the integrity and perspective of people that have occupied this place for millennia. From Cranberry Junction, it's 45 miles back to the base of the Stewart-Cassiar Highway. From here, it's finally time to head eastward. Only about 30 miles on, you'll reach Hazelton, whose workaday presence along the Yellowhead Highway disguises an attractive and quirky town a few miles north on a spur road, including a dramatic one-lane suspension bridge and one of the most entertaining City Hall buildings I've ever encountered. Continuing on the Yellowhead for another 45 miles, we reach the town of Smithers. With about 5,000 residents, it includes a range of lodging options and a lot of shops and services along the highway and the town's main street. I recommend a stop at Two Sisters Cafe for a tasty breakfast or lunch. The town also features a brewery and a number of other locally owned restaurants, with the imposing Hudson Bay Mountain overlooking town. Heading east from Smithers, the towns grow smaller and a bit further apart, but close enough to not worry much about finding your next fuel stop. The landscape flattens out a bit, with scattered ranches interspersed with forests and lakes. About 230 miles of this will bring you to Prince George, the gateway city from central BC to the north. Located in a valley basin along the Fraser River, you can find pretty much anything you need in this true city of more than 75,000 people. The commercial and retail parts of the town are a bit split between a cluster on the west side of town and the true downtown section on the east side. I prefer the downtown area as a more walkable and funkier area. It's got the fantastic compact Two Rivers Gallery and a cluster of good restaurants, including Betula Burning for Neapolitan pizza, and the fun rooftop Mexican food and large tequila selection at La Katrina. As for lodging, I'd recommend the Marriott-branded Residence Inn in the downtown area. It's easy walking from the gallery and restaurants, and after 1,500 miles of backroad adventures, it's blissfully comfortable and quiet. We're on the home stretch now, and this last bit along the John Hart Highway is worth it. We start by heading north out of Prince George, moving through a landscape of scattered woods and pasture before climbing up to a relatively low elevation pass of the Northern Rockies. Then we veer east and into the town of Chetwynd, about 185 miles out of Prince George. We've re-entered an area of pretty intense resource extraction, and Chetwynd serves as a center to a range of mining and drilling operations. It's also the home of the International Chainsaw Sculpture Championship. And to the town's advantage, they retain ownership of all the sculptures, and you'll be entertained seeing the scores of them on roadside display throughout the town. From here, it's a 60-mile straight shot east, back to Dawson Creek. However, we'll take one more nice detour and head north on Highway 29, about 40 miles to Hudson's Hope, a quaint town with lodging and eating options, and well positioned for enjoying nearby parks and lakes. From here, the road turns east and winds for about 30 miles along a valley with a new reservoir completed in 2024. Another 20 miles will bring you back to Fort St. John. And that brings us to the end of the road. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it's inspired you to explore northern British Columbia for yourself. I encourage you to subscribe to my channel and like, share, and comment on this video. And if you've got a yearning for the Northwest, check out my Traveler's Guide to Yukon Roads and Towns. Safe travels.